Sure. I quickly want to give a shout out to a company called Computer Recovery Associates, if you guys aren't familiar with those. And those are actually some guys that were from Cray. And this is the company that moved the Cray 1 from Chippewa Falls to the SC18 conference that was in Dallas, Texas. I just retired from the Supercomputing Conference series. I was with them for 20 years. So I was there in Dallas and I watched them move that system in to the Dallas Convention Center. And so I pretty well knew at that point when we were going to do this move that was going to be the people that were going to be able to get that done. And in fact, an interesting little story about that, because these guys, the pathway to get the Cray out of the Mesa Lab was extremely tight. And so we had some areas of concern. So those guys actually went over to the museum in Chippewa Falls and did some disassembly of that Cray 1 and to get some accurate measurements so that we could make sure that we could be able to get by some of the choke points that we have. And they jokingly said that someone from the Cray Museum came by as they were doing that and said, "You are going to put that back together, right?" So they were able to do that. Interesting group of guys to work with. Craig Webb, Terry Jackson, and I forget the other gentleman's name. I think his name was Bob, but Bob remembered pushing that machine out the door in 1977 from Cray. He wasn't on the NCAR end of it, but he was on the Cray end of it when that machine was manufactured. So these guys had if you want to reach out to them, these guys have a very in-depth knowledge of the Cray systems. And the picture that Summer is showing right now is an integral part of that move, because these dollies, this set of dollies, are the only ones that are in existence, and they were made specifically for moving a Cray 1A. As you can see, those fingers that are at the bottom grab the machine at the bottom, because there is no lifting points from the top. You can't do that, which is one of the other issues in moving it. So the machine has to be lifted from the bottom. So what happens, you can see the pipe on the end there. So from the bottom apparatus to the top rail, there's a set of bottle jacks that are in there. So what they do is they put these dollies in there to where those fingers grab the bottom of the machine, and then they jack up the bottle jack so that it actually puts it on the rollers of the dolly itself. You can kind of see it fairly well right there. So again, shout out to Computer Recovery Associates. They did an awesome job of getting it from the Mesa Lab to the NCAR Wyoming Supercomputing Center. But a little bit of a history, if you want to go back to the where this started at the Mesa Lab, Summer. This thing was on display. It's my understanding that was decommissioned in 1989 at the Mesa Lab, and so it was sitting where it was at the Mesa Lab from 1989 on to present day, when we finally just moved it in early December of this year. So it was kind of interesting when we pulled it up. You could see the prints in the floor from over 30, 40 years of waxing around it and that type of thing. So we kind of had to basically bust it loose from the floor in order to get it to where we could get the power supplies off. And then what you're looking at, go back to that picture there. The CRA has an actual machine that they use. What he's used, that blue box right there, is a power pusher, which was huge in this process, because trying to push that 8,000-pound machine, it was very nice to have a little bit of mechanical assistance with that process. So the dollies actually have a trailer hitch receiver built into them, and so they hooked that power pusher up to the dollies via a trailer hitch, and so it was a very cool process. So anyway, we started disassembly at the Mesa Lab. That's what she's showing right now. It's a time-lapse video. We removed all the power supplies and then took them down to the elevator and put them on CRA's truck. And then that got us down to that center core. And then that's what has to be lifted with the dollies. And then from that position there, we had to go down a series of corridors to get out to what is now their UPS room. the uninterruptible power supply room, and where we staged it for crane operations that was to take place in it. Yes, this picture here, you can see the door to the left, that's the UPS room. So we took the machine out and staged it. And then the following day, the crane came in, and then we lowered this lifting platform that I had made specifically for this operation. Is an 8,500 pound rated lifting platform. As you can see, it has a number of different railing systems and everything that are way different from the lifting platform that was used in 1977. But this one was all designed, engineered out of a firm out of Missoula, Montana, that makes lifting platforms specifically for this purpose, because nothing could be lifted from the top. So we lowered that down into the air shaft, and then lowered the ramp, and then loaded the machine, brought it back up out, and put it on our Earth Observing Laboratory department. Has a special flatbed trailer that they use for field campaigns. They set up systems all over the world. So they brought their flatbed over. So when it came out of the air shaft by crane, it was turned around and put on this flatbed. And what that allowed us to do was to back the flatbed up to the semi for CRA, so that we could put the machine from the lifting platform onto the semi. And then it began its journey to Cheyenne, Wyoming. So what she's showing you here is after the arrival at the dock here at the NWSC. So we're coming off the truck right here, and then we're going down a series of corridors. Of course, all the power supplies and everything were on separate pallets. So this is the access corridor at the NWSC. It is the combining corridor that combines the data side of the NWSC to the power plant side. So it's kind of a staging area for us. And then we came down, she showed you some earlier photographs of the visitor center. So you can see where it's coming through the visitor center right there. We had to remove 2 of those glass panels out of that curved glass wall to have sufficient access to be able to pass it through, and then set it up in the, that's an administrative area that's right behind that glass wall. So it's readily seen from the visitor center, but it's not in the visitor center. So it's all viewed through those glass walls. So it's right adjacent to it. So it's in a perfect spot. It's almost like, it falls into that the statement, better to be lucky than good. We originally designed that curved glass wall to kind of be an architectural feature to highlight the administrative portion of the building. But it actually, as it actually turns out, it looks a lot like that curved gray wall with glass wall was actually made for the Cray machine, because it sits in there absolutely perfect. Yeah. And then, as I said, we've changed around some plexiglass and Lexan panels. So we've replaced all of those. So those are all brand new and looking really good. So you can see the power supplies on both sides. And then you can see right there, you can see the column that has the modules populated. And on the other side, we took out a panel and put in a plexiglass so that you can see a fully unpopulated column. So, and as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at doing some special LED lighting, cleaning up some of the base around the floor. And so it's going to be looking like a brand new penny here real soon. And as I stated earlier, it's going to be very exciting to have that part of all the commissioning exercise for the brand new Cray.